Hi, class. I'm going to talk a little bit about the sampling process for qualitative research. So we recall the various types of qualitative research: ethnography, case study, grounded theory, narrative, phenomenological interviews or in-depth interviews, and focus groups, right? And so the question is, how do we choose our respondents, our samples for a qualitative study? Okay. Now we know that when we do qualitative studies, we are focused on how our respondents make meaning of a particular phenomenon, how they experience that phenomenon, what does it do to them, right? And so you know, let's go back to our example of human trafficking. So let's say that we want to do an in-depth interview of a few young women that have been human trafficked up and down the I-95 corridor. And so we want to know how they experienced that. What was their, how did that phenomenon affect them? All right. So we're not going to do a quantitative analysis because we don't do quantitative analyses in qualitative studies. So we're going to do an in-depth interview, and we're going to interview all of those young women, and we're going to transcribe the interviews. We're going to go through the transcriptions. We're going to try to pick out patterns and themes, and we'll code them accordingly. However we decide, we'll code them. And then we can start trying to make sense of how they experience the phenomenon of human trafficking. Unlike a quantitative sample, we are not concerned with representativeness or with randomness in a qualitative study, because we aren't going to use any statistics. All right. Now we still have some ethical considerations to be concerned with. We've got to do whatever we have to do with respect to the ethics. We've got to give them informed consent. We've got to get their informed consent and all that. But we're not as worried about randomness and representativeness. Why? Because we specifically chose a group of people that experienced the phenomenon. Okay? And we're not going to do a quantitative analysis. There's no statistics involved. All right? Basically, what we'll do is create a semi-structured interview where we structure several questions. But each question, as we go through the interview, leads to more questions, sub-questions. And that's how we get this broad information base from a qualitative study. So since we know the kind of the respondents that we want, the sampling process is called purposive. Sometimes you might hear of convenience sampling, but I like to use purposive. We choose the respondents for a purpose, and that purpose is they experience the phenomenon of human trafficking, and that's what we want. Okay? We don't have to select a large group of respondents. We can do anywhere from 1 to 20. We want to keep it relatively small because I'll tell you, to do a qualitative study, you're going to have to go through a lot of data, a lot of information. Now remember, I use the term data. That doesn't mean numbers. Data can be words also. or images. Okay, so the key then is to maybe select, I like somewhere between 10 and 15. And then we give them the semi-structured interview, come up with our results. That's essentially how we get a sample group of respondents for a qualitative study. Okay, I hope that's helpful. I look forward to continuing to share my information and knowledge about our topic. Have a great week, everyone.